These jump promos, man, I love them. So lately, Konami has been dropping monthly promos that reference the manga or anime. So, for example, Spell Card Soul Exchange works in a similar fashion to how Soul Exchange works in the series. Now we get a callback to Kuribo versus Thousand Eyes Restrict, where it basically blocked Restrict from sucking up Magician of Black Chaos by covering its eyes. So, in other words, negating its effect. Which is exactly what this card allows you to do by when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field. As a quick effect, you can equip this card to that opponent's monster as an equipped spell with this effect that the equipped monster's effect is negated. It also has the additional ability to special summon itself from the hand if a Kuribo monster card is on the field. So I think the way that that's worded is it doesn't even have to be your Kuribo monster card. It could be any Kuribo monster card. But anyways, good generic Kuribo support nonetheless. And they call it detonating Kuribo, though I guess they didn't want to take it the extra step and incorporate any sort of destruction capability. Maybe that would have been a little bit too OP. But still, nonetheless, good to see some good Kuribo support. Maybe eventually we get a full Kuribo deck. That's for the deck we are getting. Back in my list of top 10 Kaiba cards due for their own decks, I had on my number 4 spot XYZ Dragon Cannon. So this is an archetype that debuted way back in, I believe, the 8th set of the game Magician's Force in 2003. It's the debut of Union monsters, and XYZ has received some support here and there along the way, but probably what people really remember the lettered Union monsters for is the ABC series, which actually has had some impact on the meta from time to time. But good to see now getting some support for this old lineup. Kaiba charges into battle with XYZ retrains, and thus here's a picture of Manjome. I don't know why they did it like that. But going down the list, so we are going to get retrains of X, Y, and Z. And starting off with X Cross Cannon, you can only use each of these effects once per turn. If you control a Light Machine Fusion or Union, you can special summon this card from your hand. So that's good since the A through Z series really relies on that normal summon. Being able to special summon additionally is always good to have. Otherwise, during your main phase, you can equip one appropriate Light Machine Union monster from your deck to this card as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. So locking you into your light monsters, I think are still a pretty robust attribute as far as the extra deck is concerned. It's not even specifying it has to be a machine, just any light monster. The other thing about this card to note is that it doesn't take on the name X-Head Cannon. So I imagine we're going to get retrains of the Fusion series as well, but just something to keep in mind as we go. And then the last thing about this card is that it's not a Union. So you're not going to be able to search it out with Union Hanger. That's unfortunate. It looks like this card is going to be the go-to starter of the deck. So hopefully there is another way to grab it. Moving on, we got White Dragon Bearhead. If this card is special summon, you can equip one level 4 light machine monster from your hand or grave to it. Also, you cannot special summon the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. So again, similar stipulation there. Once per turn, it has a Union effect where you can equip to a machine monster you control or de-equip and special summon it. Z Zillion Tank has the same Union effect, and then if it's special summon, you can equip one of your banished level 4 light machine monsters to it, and the stipulation of not being able to special summon the extra deck for the rest of the turn except light monsters. So Z Zillion Tank grabs for the banished, Y grabs from the hand or graveyard. So some good ways to assemble the pieces to be able to go into what was expected the retrain of XYZ Dragon Cannon. It's XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon. Takes the 3 new guys, must be special summoned by banishing the above cards from your field and or grave. So that's good. Playing to how ABC laid it out, being able to use materials from your grave, not just from your field, whereas the original XYZ required it just being from your field. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can discard a card and target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. So weaker than ABC counterpart, since ABC can be used on either turn and it banishes, it doesn't just destroy. This other effect is also kind of similar to the ABC effect. You can banish this card from your field or grave and reveal one level 8 Light Machine Fusion from your extra deck, special summon up to 3 materials whose names are mentioned on it from your grave or banishment. So in some ways, this is better than the ABC counterpart because you can banish it from your field or grave, whereas the ABC requires you to just tribute it. But that effect is a quick effect, whereas this one is an ignition effect. So you won't be able to dodge your opponent's moves, but again, you're able to use it from your grave. So able to get that floating effect at your choosing. The other thing about this is that it requires 3 specific guys, whereas ABC, I believe, gets any light machine unions from your banishment. But then this guy is only up to 3 materials. So even if you only have 2 or 1, you'd be able to use this effect, whereas ABC, I believe, requires you to have 3 ready to go to use its effect. Moving on down to Union Controller. So this is going to combine Y-Dragon, Earhead, or Z-Zillion Tank with any light machine. So that can be anything in your A through Z series. It could be Cyber Dragon. Really, light machines are such a bountiful type attribute combination. Must first be special summoned by banishing the above cards you control. Okay, so not using anything from the grave this time, just ones you control, but usually that's typically very easy with a card like Union Hanger. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can add one spell or trap from your deck to your hand that mentions Union Monster. So that's pretty nifty. Usually when these cards that specify something in the text, they're usually related to archetype names or an actual specific card name. But I believe they're expanding this particularly to classes of monsters. So I've seen cards that allow you to grab cards that mention Spirit Monster or Gemini Monster, and now here we have Union Monster. And then once per turn, you can special summon one Light Machine Normal or Union Monster from your hand. So again, a good extender. The deck, again, typically has relied on its normal summons, so being able to get those extra summons, special summons from your hand is always good to have. And then as far as the targets that this card has up its sleeve, Union Hanger, of course, Union Scramble, Unauthorized Reactivation. If we're going old school, Combination Attack is an old card I really like. A lot of options there, and I believe it's probably going to be able to search out this next guy as well, and that is Union Activation. You can only use these effects once per turn. Send one Light Machine, Normal, or Union Monster from your hand or deck to the grave, and if you do, add one Light Machine monster with the same attack but a different original name from deck to hand. All right, so that's going to be your way to search out your X-Cross Cannon by probably having to run X-Head Cannon. I believe as far as the other lineup of A through Z is concerned, 1500 attack is the most common one shared between B, Y, and Z. So those would all be searchable as well. A, C, V, W would not be searchable. If you special summon 3 Light Machine monsters at the same time while this card is in your grave, you can banish this card, add one monster with 3000 or more attack from your deck to your hand, and immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon it. Cool, so if you want to run a full-on Kaiba deck, you're able to grab Blue Eyes or maybe even Obelisk, like I had done in my own custom support for the Egyptian gods a couple of weeks ago. I tied in the XYZ series as an engine to facilitate the summoning of Obelisk. It looks like Konami is sort of hinting at that. Not as explicitly as they did with the Face Knights and Slifer, but I guess it's there, so maybe they have something planned later on down the line that would tie Obelisk more concretely with the rest of Kaiba's XYZ lineup. All right, now to go through some go-to combos and openings with this new support, and shout out to Raymond Fox 12 for getting these cards out on Dueling Book so quick. And like I said, as we were going through the list of cards, X-Cross Cannon is going to be your starter, and you want to be able to get it out as soon as possible, so run 3 copies of it. And then Union Activation is going to be your one way to search it, because again, Union Hanger only on activation searches out Union Light Machine Unions, and since X-Cross Cannon isn't a Union, the only other way to search it is by using Union Activation, which can search it out by sending a Light Machine Normal or Union monster with a different name but the same attack. So in this case, a Light Machine Normal or Union monster with 1800 attack, and the only one in the pool of over 10,000 cards is your X-Head Cannon. So just pray you don't open up with it in hand, though if you do, you can send it from your hand, but preferably from the deck. Send that, grab X-Cross Cannon. And this combo that I'm about to demonstrate works by either opening up with Union Activation or X-Cross Cannon. Normal summon your X-Cross. You can use its second effect to equip it with a Light Machine Union from the deck as if it were equipped by that monster's effect. So we'll grab Y-Dragon Earhead. And now with Y-Dragon, Earhead, and any other Light Machine, we can go into Union Controller, who on summon from the extra deck can grab a spell trap from the deck that mentions Union Monster. Grab Union Hanger. Activate Union Hanger, which on activation can grab a Light Machine Union from the deck. We'll grab Z-Zillion Tank. Use Union Controller's second effect to special summon a Light Machine Normal or Union Monster from the hand. Special summon this guy. Z-Zillion Tank on special summon can equip one of our banished level 4 Light Machines to it, and then Union Hanger, since we special summon a Light Machine Union monster, we can equip it with an appropriate Light Machine Union monster with a different name from the deck. So resolve that chain, equip Y from the deck with Union Hanger, and equip X-Cross from the banished pile. And just pointing out here that Z-Zillion Tank and Y-Dragon, for that matter, don't necessitate that it have to be a Union monster. It can be any level 4 Light Machine. So in this case, X-Cross Cannon. And now we got our XYZ, and we can go into our boss, our retrained XYZ Hyper Dragon Cannon. And keep in mind, we did this all with just one card in hand. So we theoretically would have 4 more cards in hand, plenty of fodder to use for its discard effect to target cards our opponent controls on our opponent's turn and destroy them. Some quick rulings to point out, and I'm not a judge, though I think this is how these cards are going to work. First, probably very definitively, Union Hanger, again, can't search out X-Cross Cannon, so just keep that in mind. It's not like open up with this or that. If you want to be able to open up with X-Cross Cannon as consistent as possible, you're just going to have to run your Union activation with X Cannon. Now, for the more specific rulings, again, I believe this is how it's going to work. X-Cross Cannon, since it equips from the deck as if it were equipped with that monster's effect, you can't just then use Zillion tanks or any of the unions that you equip to it to special summon itself via its union effect. Since that effect is just once per turn, you won't be able to just bring it out and go into a rank 4 or a link 2 or what have you. The other ruling to keep in mind, again, I believe this is how it works, is that if you were to special summon Zillion or Y Dragon, you equip a light machine from your banished in case of Z or from your hand or grave in the case of Y to it, but it's not equipped as a union monster. So if you were to, let me use Y Dragon in this example, if you were to equip a union monster in this case, I don't believe you'll be able to special summon it because it's not equipped as a union monster. It's just equipped. So you won't be able to kind of go into a sort of loop here where you would bring out Z, go into Y, Y go into Z, Z go into Y, Y go into whatever. It won't work like that, I don't believe. So just some rulings to keep in mind. But overall, I think this is really solid, stands out on its own, not just shiny because of the ABC series, but able to have its own plays like we just showed with just one card able to go into its boss as well as an additional fusion there. It doesn't require you to run the old stuff except the X-Head Cannon if you want to be able to get the most out of Union activation. And then the last thing about this new support is that with a card like Union Control, you're able to search out those key cogs, those key pieces of any Union deck, whether that be a Union Hanger, Union Scramble, Unauthorized Reactivation, and what have you. Now, personally, I do wish they went a bit more in on the Obelisk synergy, but that's not really my huge gripe here. Only other thing that bugs me is that without letting these cards take on the name of the originals, whether that be on the field or in the grave, we miss out on some of the older support. So if we're talking about cards like A to Z Dragon Buster Cannon, this requires a card with the original name of XYZ Dragon Cannon. If we're looking at cards like XYZ Hyper Cannon or XYZ Combine, these cards specifically reference X Head Cannon, Y Dragon Head, Z Metal Tank, right? And specifically refers to XYZ Dragon Cannon. So you're not able to really use these effects with this new support since they don't take on those names. If it were me, I would have done it that way, but Konami in their infinite wisdom went in a separate direction, so I digress. What are y'all's thoughts on this new Kaiba support? Let me know in the comments, as well as what you think we'll get next, because Konami is definitely squeezing us for all our nostalgia. In just the last 6 months, we got Yugi with Shiny Sarcophagus, Joey with Flame Swordsman, Shimon/Grandpa with Exodia, some GX sprinkled in there with Yubel, and now Kaiba with XYZ Dragon Cannon. I'm thinking if they do another Duel Monsters character, it's going to be a villain, and my bet is on Bakura, specifically with a Diabound or Zork deck. I think that would be fabulous to see, but let me know what you think might be coming down the pipe.